Mayor Coffman, former President Donald Trump announced last night in a campaign rally speech that he intends to visit Aurora here within the next 2 weeks. Has his campaign reached out to you about that?
No, they haven't reached out yet, and surprised that they haven't, simply because of all the coordination and security arrangements that would have to be made, but nobody's reached out yet.
What do you think about him potentially visiting Aurora?
I think it's a great opportunity to show the president that we are not a city that is overrun by Venezuelan gangs as I think purported in the national media in terms of a narrative about the city. So I think it's a great opportunity to break that narrative and to be able to provide a briefing, a law enforcement briefing to the president in terms of our efforts in dealing with this issue.
Well, you say this has been reported in the national media, but he at his rallies, President Trump at his rallies, is saying that Aurora has been taken over. He said that at a debate with Vice President Harris last week. Are you comfortable with the way he is portraying Aurora?
No, and I think that that's an opportunity to show the president that that narrative is not accurate.
You said in a statement that you are hoping that he'll be able to meet with the police chief if he does visit. Do you think his visit is going to change what he has been saying about Aurora?
I hope so. I mean, certainly that would be my goal.
But do you actually see that happening?
I don't know, but that would certainly be my goal: is to be able to, that the president would have or the former president would have an opportunity to see the city, to understand that you know, where I think we had a bad incident at 1 or 2 apartment complexes. That's obviously over now. We're pursuing the individuals responsible for that, but that in no ways defines this city as being a city overrun by Venezuelan gangs as reported in the media and sometimes expressed by the president, former president.
And what do you think about all of this information that's being spread about Aurora on social media? Do you think it has hurt the city?
Yeah, I think it has hurt the city. I mean, I think that, I think there are people that want the narrative to continue through the election. Obviously, we had a problem at one snapshot in time, and we've dealt with that in a very limited part of the city. But I think certainly trying to portray the city as controlled by gangs is not at all accurate, and I think that having the president here is an opportunity to hopefully change that narrative.
Do you think he's trying to use Aurora as a photo op?
I don't know, but my goal, if he wants to use it as a photo op, that's fine, as long as we can break that narrative, and he can certainly. I would love to be able to talk to the president and show the president around the city, and to have a briefing by law enforcement about the situation. In fact, our chief of police, Todd Chamberlain, will be having a press conference tomorrow where he'll be updating the public on the situation.
We're just a few feet away from where Congresswoman Lauren Boebert held a roundtable not too long ago. Are you comfortable, and she doesn't represent this district, by the way, she doesn't represent Aurora right now, nor would she represent it if she were elected to this new seat. Are you comfortable with that kind of thing, with what she has been doing?
You know, I wasn't comfortable, and that's why I wasn't present for her, I guess you would call it a press conference.
Do you think she's using this as a photo op as well?
Well, I think that I think she's using it, or used it to I think promote a certain narrative is that Aurora is out of control in terms of Venezuelan gangs, but I think that she's trying to promote that narrative to change the situation at the border, which I certainly support. I think we ought to have a secure border, and I think we ought to be vetting people that come across the border better than we are today.
Do you regret anything that you have said here in recent weeks?
Well, my comments were based on the briefings that I received from, the initial briefings that I received from law enforcement. And I think we found since then that there are some elements of that briefing that are questionable, but at one point in time we had a problem in a couple of apartment complexes that was real. And I think that is evident in the video. What the chief can talk about tomorrow, and what I hope he would have an opportunity to talk about to the former president, is that how we've moved on those individuals that were in that video.
You said something on the Dan Kaplan show recently. You were asked how many apartment complexes in Aurora have been taken over by gangs, and your response was, quote, several, 3.
Yeah, I think that probably 2 is more accurate. I think 1 may have had some gang issues, but those would have been secondary to the habitability concerns of the known property. Same ownership.
So you're saying they were taken over?
No. I think
They're
there are
not.
2 that were, and I don't recall saying several. I think there are 2 buildings that I believe had issues at one point in time.
But you wouldn't say that they were taken over by a gang, they had issues?
Well, I think as it was described to me initially, that they were taken over and collecting the rent from the tenants. I've yet to find and talk to a lot of tenants and held meetings with tenants from both buildings, and have yet to find anyone who was paying rent to a third party. They're just not paying rent at all because there's no property management on site and there are no services.
But as of now, you say that they're not in control of any of these apartment complexes.
That's correct.
Okay. Aurora is not a sanctuary city, as you know. Why is this a problem?
Aurora has never historically been a sanctuary city, although there's been state laws that have overridden some of the policies we had in terms of cooperating with immigration services that we're no longer able to do.
Do you think Denver has, because I've heard this, that Denver may have somehow contributed to this?
We're looking into that right now.
Do you have any thoughts about that? Because we know that Governor Greg Abbott was sending migrants to Denver, trying to wonder, how did they get to Aurora?
We're trying to confirm right now whether the city and county of Denver was complicit in moving migrants into the city of Aurora, but we haven't confirmed that yet.
All right. I wanted to ask you quickly about Councilwoman Danielle Jinsky. You have any concerns about what she has said in recent weeks about this issue?
Well, we put out a joint statement with the city manager, myself, and Councilmember Jinsky that I think put the situation in a proper context, and that statement has been made public.
What would you like people across the country to know about your city?
That it's one of the most diverse cities in America, that it's a safe city, that it is not being in any way controlled by Venezuelan gangs, and that we have an effective law enforcement strategy to deal with those gang members that we have identified.
And what would be your message to the citizens of Aurora who've had to deal with this in the last several weeks?
Well, I think there's been a lot of concern, a lot of anxiety from across the city, and as to whether or not these reports are real in terms of this national narrative, and so it's clearly not. And so we've been putting out that, and I look forward to the press conference tomorrow, where our chief of police, Todd Chamberlain, will be able to explain that.
All right.